fair warning before you see this video, I definitely messed up. That water pan should have definitely been on the opposite side of my vent. I apologize. We'll do better next time. But if you use my videos as like an instructional video, everything else is to point. Just make sure that water pan is on the other side of the vent. My brisket ended up being really dry, but the next attempt will be better.
Hey, this is Jace with Black Raven Pit and Purpose. Today you're going to be getting a behind the scenes look at my operation. I'm going to be telling you the traumatic backstory that caused me to start this company and why I like to work with nonprofits. And we're smoking brisket. Now, brisket is an all-day smoke. I've been up since about 6 a.m. to get all this set up and ready. Let's go ahead and go to the prep that we did yesterday. Okay, so brisket can be a little bit difficult to work with if it's your first time. But I found that it's a little bit simpler if we just kind of break down the process into steps. So for our binder this time, we're going to be using a honey Dijon mustard. And we're just going to kind of squirt this guy all over here. This is also one of the few times you'll hear me say that it's important to put rub all over your meat product. Brisket is just one of those meats that definitely likes to be covered. So we'll start with this side here and just kind of spread this around. Be sure and reach every corner, get the sides. Now I am using my savory rosemary ember rub today, so this honey mustard will actually go really well with that. Go ahead and get this side here. Okay, so let's grab our first one, and we're just going to go crazy with it. Put some more on this guy. These are pretty good sized pieces of meat, so they like all the rub they can get. Do not eat these, obviously. Okay. And again, like always, I'm going to spread that rub around. Be sure and get every inch that you can. The more, the better. That one looks pretty good. And again, spread it around. It's important to get the sides. Again, this is one of those rare times that I'm going to tell you it's important to cover every inch that you can. Take any excess rub and just kind of push it off. That way we can use it on the other side. Be sure and give that a good pat down. Now we're going to flip our meat. And we'll go ahead and grab some more mustard. Grab our other bag of rub. Again, that's savory rosemary ember. Okay, and just take this excess. Again, do not eat these. Okay, and then I'm going to change gloves because these are a mess and I like to have clean hands when I do my foil. I'll be right back. Okay. So now that we've gotten those nasty gloves off, we're going to go ahead and wrap these up. I like to just kind of do it like a Christmas gift, or I guess any sort of holiday, depending on your denomination here. If you got a little bit of rub that's kind of blocking your way, just go ahead and push it out. Okay, and there you have it. We're going to let these sit for 24 hours in the fridge, and then before we take them out to be on the smoker tomorrow, we're going to let them sit on the counter for about a half hour, just to get them to room temperature. Okay, so now that it's been 24 hours and our rub has had plenty of time to kind of sink into that brisket, we're going to go ahead and get started with our smoke here. We're starting our smoker at 225 degrees. Now, as I said in the prep video, this brisket can be kind of complicated. It's best to just kind of take it in steps. So for this first step, our goal is to just smoke it until we get an internal temperature of 160 degrees. Now that'll vary depending on the size of the brisket that you have, so it's best to kind of check online to verify what temp you're actually looking for. But I'm doing briskets that are about 3 to 3.5 pounds, so 160 is about ideal temp. Another thing to note is that brisket actually has two sides to it. There's a fatty side and a not fatty side. You want to put your fatty side where your heat is coming from. Now, for instance, my smoker, the heat comes from below. So I'm going to be actually flipping mine over so the fat is on the bottom. This will kind of help the fat just kind of render down and get into the meat, and it'll end up being really tasty at the end of things. So we are 2 temps, so let's go ahead and get these guys on the smoker. Now I already have my water pan in here. No additives today, I'm just doing straight water. Let's go ahead and get this guy on here. Now on the probes, it's important to kind of use the thickest side of the meat. So just be sure that you got your probe going to each one. You want to kind of get right in the middle there. Do our other one. Close this up. And we're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to monitor the temps constantly. Once we hit 160 degrees, we're ready to go on to the next step. Be about 3 hours for us to get to that point, so we'll see you then. All right, both of our briskets have reached 160 degrees internal temps. We are ready to move on to the next step, which is wrapping them in butcher paper and then putting them back on the smoker. Okay, we have our butcher paper ready to go. Don't forget to check your tongs before you get started. Now, as I transfer these over to the butcher paper, I'm actually going to try and keep them centered. When I wrap these, I want the bottom to be on top. So I'm going to want to flip my brisket as I put it on the butcher paper just to make sure we keep the fat side down. Well wrapped and sealed. So that's looking pretty good. And as I said, I'm just going to put them back on the grill. I'm going to re-probe them. Then we'll close her up. Okay, I have both my briskets back on the smoker. We're still at 225 degrees. I'm going to keep them there until we reach an internal temp of about 190 degrees, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Now let's take you guys for a little behind the scenes look on how I make everything here at my house and kind of show you what's going on behind the scenes. And let's show you what I got going on inside. So right away you can see my 2 adorable pups. This is Loki. He is a rescue, as is Apollo. They have been through so much with me, and I appreciate them. Yeah, you're good boys. This is where I shoot all of my intro content. It's just kind of a fake kitchen setup that I wanted to have something that was just a little bit easier for me to kind of work from and light up as I needed. So that's been a really great space for me to work out of. Let's go ahead and show you guys the production room. So here is where I make everything. You can see all my finished product over here on top of my deep freeze. Special shout out to Hazard Beef. They are a local meat producer here in Nebraska. This fridge is stocked full of everything I buy from them. Absolutely love them. It's a man and wife that just kind of run a small farm, and their products are amazing. So if you guys are in the market for brisket or any other large cuts meat, highly suggest you go through them. They're just amazing. Over here, you can see my entire spice rack. These are all the ingredients that go into all of my rubs. And this is actually the room where I make them all. So production table, I mix up all my rubs right here, vacuum seal them, and then I actually print off my own labels and put them on myself. Right now I am using labels that I just designed quickly, but I have new ones coming in the future, so keep an eye out for those. Sauces I actually make upstairs in the actual kitchen. Part of my moving back is I actually had to move in with my parents. So they have been gracious to allow me to just kind of take over their basement so I can kind of make Black Raven Pit and Purpose a thing. And I thank them every day for just letting me live here and kind of do what I need to in order to get by and start this company that means so much to me. All right, back outside. So I get asked all the time, why did you start Black Raven Pit and Purpose? Why do you work with nonprofits and choose to donate to them so much? I even had my data analytics friend who's helping me kind of run the background of my business ask me, like, why do you donate 15% to nonprofits? The usual business standard is 10% across the board. I just want to do more. So anyways, backstory here. It's going to be a little tough for me to tell you all, but here we go. So I moved out to Washington back in November of 2024. I moved out there to start a landscaping company with a buddy of mine, and we were going to start our own fly fishing equipment company as well. And it was about a month after I moved that I started having blackout episodes. According to my roommate, I would go into full seizures, and it was just not a good time. My heart would stop, I'd stop breathing, and then I'd wake up maybe a minute later, no telling how long I was out, just gasping for breath and just extremely tired. It just wasn't a good situation. So those of you who know me have known that, I have suffered from blackout issues, especially when I get like tattoos or experience like large amounts of pain all at one time. It just sort of hits me and I'm just out, but I've always woken up and been okay. But they're usually years apart from each other. So while I was living in Washington, over the course of end of November to the end of December, I actually suffered 2 different episodes. I had one that, we thought was a one-off, no big deal. I think I hit my knee when it happened, so it's just, we kind of played it off as, hey, this is no big deal, no reason to go to the hospital. Well, I went back to Omaha to visit over Christmas and came back to Washington after that visit and had another episode where I was just sitting on the couch watching TV, nothing to really spark it, no pain, nothing like that. So we rushed me off to the hospital. Eventually I met with a neurologist who diagnosed me with epilepsy based on what my roommate was telling her about what happened when I had these episodes. It led me through months of tests. I can't even tell you all the names of all the tests that I had to go through, but I was put into machines, had diodes hooked up to my head. It was the most traumatic experience of my life. Almost immediately before we even started tests, they put me on a drug called Keppra, which is an anti-seizure medication. And almost immediately I went into the deepest depression I have ever experienced in my life. Part of the reason I am actually wearing this outfit right now is because for the next 4 months after starting on Keppra, this is the only thing I could stand to wear, was just, workout hoodies and sweatpants. I spent those 4 months basically glued to my couch, had no energy, did not even feel like getting up and going and exploring everything beautiful that Washington has to offer. The entire reason I moved out there was just to do camping and, experience the wildlife and all that. And the entire 4 months that I lived there, I maybe left the house about 15 times. Car rides were extremely difficult for me initially. I couldn't make it more than 15 minutes without feeling dizzy or feeling like I was going to have another episode. I was constantly stressed, and I would have to just get up and walk, and I would pace for hours at a time. Sometimes as many as 5, just me having to walk back and forth across the house just to kind of stay awake and make sure I wouldn't have another episode. Eventually, once the side effects of the Keppra started to settle down, I was able to just kind of relax. And, unfortunately, the only thing I could do was just hang out, watch TV, play video games. That's really all I had the energy for. I had no want or need to do anything else. Even barely eating. And for those of you that know me, I have a huge appetite. I usually eat enough to feed 3 full-grown men easy. And I didn't care. I just went into this deep depressive episode and wanted nothing to do with absolutely anything. The only reason I made it through is because of the support of my friends and family, especially the ones that I have back here in Omaha. Special thank you to everyone that reached out. You are the only reason I'm here. So again, thank you to everyone that reached out while I was going through all that. You guys mean the world to me. And it was a lot. Even just thinking about it now, I get a little teary-eyed because it was just the amount of support that I received upon my diagnosis, and going through the entire process was just amazing. I heard from people that I haven't talked to in years, past coworkers, friends that I thought didn't really even remember my name, reached out and made sure I was okay. It was just an incredibly traumatic experience for me, and it's only because of my friends and family that I was able to make it through. So fast forward to March, I was running out of money. I had sold my house that I had here in Omaha to actually move out there and afford the startup for all the business, and took care of all the bills, everything. I was getting to the point where I only had about $15,000 left to my name. So I made the decision to move back to Omaha, spend a good amount getting, U-Haul all packed up and getting moved back here and stuff. And the day I left Washington, I had my final neurology appointment, and they basically told me that because all my tests were coming back negative, they didn't think that I had epilepsy. They're not really sure how to explain it, but they did say that basically I could get off of my meds and start, just living my normal life like I normally would have. Well, I drove 3 days with my mom in the passenger seat. The original plan was for her to drive, but she started feeling sick, so I took over. Luckily, my license was cleared to drive that day, because for those of you that don't know, if you are found to have seizure-like episodes in the state of Washington, they suspend your license. So thankfully that day I saw my doctor. She, reinstated my license for me, or at least let whoever know that I could drive again, etc. And I was able to make it back to Omaha. Once I got here, it was weeks of weaning off this drug to be able to start feeling normal again. Initially, I couldn't, I was still stuck to the couch or the chair or whatever I had, watching TV, trying to find a job, something to get me by. But it was about a week before I moved back that I was talking with my roommate out in Washington, and I kept saying, man, if I could just smoke meat all day, every day for a living, I would absolutely love that. So he basically just told me to do it. So I took my last $10,000 to my name. Once I moved back to Omaha, I started Black Raven Pit and Purpose, and I decided that I wanted to give back. Excuse me. I wanted to give back because of just the overall encouragement that I had from my friends and family here in Omaha. I knew that this was home for me. I needed to be back, but at the same time, I wanted to give something back to Omaha. So that's when I decided to, basically design my entire business around helping nonprofits that really need help. I don't work with nonprofits that are making millions of dollars. I want to help the little guy. I want to help the ones that are really in need. Part of a side effect of my drugs is that my short-term memory is basically gone. I can remember bits and pieces of things here, but most of my life has essentially been wiped from my memory. I run into people that I used to know and work with, say 6 months ago, and I can't remember their name. So for those of you watching my YouTube videos, you may have noticed that it sounds like I am reading the information about these nonprofits and stuff, and it's because I am. I physically cannot retain that information without having some sort of cue or something to look at. So I appreciate those of you that are watching and kind of sticking with me here. It has been incredibly difficult, but the nonprofits I've been working with so far have been super understanding and super helpful, and I cannot tell them how much I appreciate them letting me tell their story. Nowadays that I have officially been off Keppra for, about almost 2 months now, I feel worlds better. I feel more like myself. I like to get out. I like to do things. I like to see people. It's a complete 180 from how I felt when I was living in Washington. And I am just thankful every day that I have this opportunity to spread the word and, give something back to the community here, because Omaha has always been my home, and I just want to do everything I can to help the less fortunate here and help just spread the word about my business and what I'm doing here with my mission of, you know, donating 15% of all of my profits to nonprofits. It's just a big, important drive for why I do everything I do. So thank you everyone who liked, shared, subscribed. It really means a lot. And I'm just thankful every day. It's nice to be home. If you guys have any questions for me, feel free and reach out. I am more than happy to talk more about my experience with people. I am completely open with everything that happened, or if you have experienced anything similar to what I went through, please feel free and reach out. Like, it takes a village. I mean, I know I'm kind of using that saying wrong, but it's true. Having that safety net and people you can reach out to when you're incredibly depressed or just going through things, like, it saves lives. And yeah, I am super thankful to be here today because of all my friends and family that happened to reach out. So again, thank you. Thank you to everyone that follows me, likes and subscribes, like everything. It means the world to me. I'm just doing what I can. And every day is still tough, but we're getting through. Anyway, back to the smoke. So our brisket is currently in the smoker, still at 225 degrees. We are shooting for an internal temperature of 190 degrees. Once we reach that, we'll be back with the next step. And thank you again for watching. We'll see you in a bit. After a long day of smoking, we are finally at our core temperature of 190 degrees. I actually let mine get up to 195, just kind of give them a little extra oomph. So I'm going to show you this next part here, and then you'll be good to go. You just kind of let them rest for 2 to 4 hours, and then they're ready to serve. So here we go. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and wrap this guy up. I like to put 2 towels around it just to make sure I get total coverage, so I'll actually spin it before I put on the second towel. And with 2 towels, we are ready to transfer into our cooler. And there you have it. 2 to 4 hours from now, I'm going to be tasting some really great brisket. Cannot wait. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out my other social media channels to see what else I'm up to throughout the week. Thanks again for watching.